in the beginning. Before the church, before the law, before the fall. Before everything there was God. Our identity, our story, even our purpose. Everything has to start somewhere. And in the beginning, God.
What can we learn about ourselves being created in the image of God? The first part of Genesis describes what God did. What does that tell us about God, which then tells us something about ourselves when it talks about the creation and just that, what he put into it, what his thought, what do we learn about ourselves when we look at God building and creating?
Well, again, I think it's that highlight of value. I mean, it is all of the the intent, the hands-on nature of how God created.
Very
I mean,
intentional God.
absolutely. The house that we're sitting in, has a different value for me because I built it with my own hands, and I use some of your hands too.
I understand.
I mean, we're the ones who did this. So even when you and I sit in this room and we look around at this, at this office and what we created, there is a sense of pride. There's a sense of value. There's a sense of, now, how sad would it be for either one of us, to walk into a room like this and see it treated as though it meant nothing, turned into just a junk room, with dust and nothing looked after. I mean, and that is a tiny scale compared to the crafting of a human life. And then the picture in my mind, and I don't know how God did it exactly because he doesn't say, but God kneeling down, if that's even possible, and breathing life into Adam and Eve.
Mm.
What an amazing picture that is. It's something we never talked about before, but the implications just kind of jump into my head. The word for breath is the same in Hebrew. This is the same word that is used for spirit. So when you talk about, when we talk about the breath of life, the spirit of life, all of this, this is what God breathed into us. He doesn't do that with the animals. He doesn't do that, with any other part of creation. But man, in our image, let us make them male and female. And there is value. And what do we do with that? We immediately want to become like God. We immediately want to be masters of our own destiny, and we've been battling the same thing ever since chapter 3. And what happens is that when we become that, the controlling element, if you will, of our own lives, our lives lose their value. And what like I said, the implications, my brain hurt after, after all of these implications, start rattling, around over and over and over again. And all I could think of is how sad when the only thing you see when you open up the first chapters of Genesis is a timeline. I mean, it is like looking, and one day, in a conversation like this, we'll get there. It's like opening the book of Revelation and only seeing a timeline. How sad is that? I open the book of Revelation and I see at the beginning of it, I see this magnificent description of the risen Christ. And then you come to the end of it, you see an amazing picture of what? Of the Garden of Eden, coming all the way back to what it would be, what it's going to be like to walk side by side with God Almighty in the fashion and manner that he intended.
The beginning matters. Knowing who God is and what he's done, knowing where we come from, helps us understand where he is leading us.